not.
You're not married?
The problem is you're not married. And so like if you start combining your money to buy things, when
say no.
But the thing, especially when you're in middle school and high school, less so in college, but it even still goes for, we give this wisdom to college students and even single people in their late 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. If you date like you're married, then guess what it feels like when you break up? What does it feel like? It's the other D word.
Divorce.
Yeah, it feels like divorce. It feels like your lives are tearing apart, and you have to like put your life back together again, i.e. unghost your friends, fill, all of a sudden all of your Friday nights and Saturday nights are free and empty, and you go from being unlonely to lonely again. And then guess what? It just turns into a vicious cycle where then you look to get married in your next dating relationship.
Right. And so what you end up doing is really you start practicing divorce. You get really good at it because you've had so many relationships and they've been so intense and so real, but then they end, because that's oftentimes what happens in school. It ends, and then you start another, like you say, and you get really good at divorce. And so then when you become older, when you're like, I can divorce. I'll be okay. And then we end up with,
you're my 50th wife.
Well, we end up with many families that, if any of you have a divorce in your family, it hurts. It's hard. It's hard on the parents and it's hard on the kids.
Yeah.
So practicing divorce isn't something that we want to do.
Right. And the second unwise thing is kind of related to this, and that is when you date to feel complete. Like you feel
you complete me.
Yes, it's the old Jerry Maguire movie with Tom Cruise.
But it really felt good when you heard it.
Yeah, and when the Tom Cruise character says to Renee Zellweger's character, "You complete me." Oh, it's so romantic.
You had me at complete.
And you had me at pizza. But the problem with that is if you rely on someone else to complete you, you're relying on, that means that you're not a full person on your own. It means that you have a great dependence as far as your existence on this other person. And guess what happens when if that person lets you down, if that person betrays you, if that person ghosts you, then you're feeling like half a person, less. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's also a burden on that person.
Yeah.
It can be a burden on them to feel like, oh my goodness, I have to be the one that completes you, that makes your life okay. Because if that person's having a bad day and they for some reason don't complete you, you can be upset, hurt, broken. It puts a lot of responsibility on them to do something that really was meant for God. But he's really meant to be that one person that is there for you. And without him, you are empty. Without him, you are nothing. So it takes God off the throne and really puts another person there that shouldn't be there.
Yeah. And all this wisdom, if you think about it, it works whether you're a Christian or whether you're not, whether you're a spiritual person or you're an atheist, because it's just not healthy to have your whole life dependent on another person filling every gap, void, imperfection in your life. But for a Christian, especially when it's your relationship with Christ that makes you into, as it says in 2 Corinthians 5:17, that if anyone's in Christ, they are a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. When Christ completes you and he makes you complete, then the pressure is off the other person. And also you're more healthy and happy, whether you're single or dating or married or quarantined, so in every realm of life, it's not good to look to another imperfect sinner. Why am I pointing at you?
I don't know.
It's not healthy to look at another imperfect sinner to complete you. So
I can't do it.
So don't date like you're married. Don't date to feel complete. Here's another one. And this is very common within middle school, high school years, and that is what, Hayley?
Don't date to fit in.
Yeah.
It seems like if you're dating the right person, or even sometimes just anybody, at least you're fitting in because you aren't someone that's nobody's interested in. So you have this sense of, if I have another person, I'm going to fit in somewhere, to their group, or to at least to the group of people that have someone in their lives, whatever.
FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, FOMO. Well, everybody else has a boyfriend. Everybody else has a girlfriend. What am I? Prom's coming up. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry.
Ouch.
Too soon?
A little bit.
We should have a virtual prom.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, if you want to have a virtual prom, we'll be chaperones.
The dresses,
Everybody's Zoom window 6 inches apart. Anyways.
the dresses for virtual proms are much less expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, you only need
Half.
all the boys are pants optional. So because it's
It's only from here up. Yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
Moving along.
Yeah, moving along. Yeah, so when you date to fit in, how is that wise? How is that healthy? If anything, what that's saying is you just care about appearance, what other people think, and if you only choose people or choose situations in your life based on what other people think, guess what? Everybody else controls your major life decisions.
Yeah.
And that's not a good
Don't do
thing.
that. It's using people. If you get right down to it, if you're just dating someone so that you can get something out of it, like fitting in, then you're really kind of using them. And for some people, that's okay. You might be okay with that. You might say, I'm okay with using people. Hey, at least you're being honest. My number one thing is, let's be honest with ourselves.
Users.
But probably most of you don't want to be that. You don't want to be that person that's using someone. And that's a terrible thing to be. It's a terrible thing to happen to you.
Yeah. And the last one is, and it's kind of related to loneliness. It doesn't sound as gravely, desperate, but don't date out of boredom. Don't date out of boredom, and don't date out of loneliness. They're kind of related, because when you date out of boredom or loneliness, it kind of goes back to that whole completeness. How many of you remember in your life, maybe even this week, where you've told your parents, I'm bored. I've watched everything. I don't know. For the love of all that is holy, not another jigsaw puzzle, Mom. Put the puzzles away. When you're bored, you'll do anything to feel like, okay, all right, now I'm getting some stimulation of my brain. I'm feeling alive. But why do you think dating out of boredom can be kind of a dangerous game?
Are you asking me or them? Because
You.
I think it'd be interesting if they answered.
Well, they can answer if they want to chat, but you answer.
Well, there's several reasons. I think the first one would be dating out of boredom can tend to make you less discerning, maybe. Like you just pick anybody.
Like lower standards?
Yeah, you lower your standards. And so then you can end up, I don't think I need to spell it all out. You can end up in relationships that are destructive. You can end up in a psycho relationship where they're like clingy and they're all after you. And you just don't make wise decisions because you're just kind of desperate. Yeah. And so that's, I think, a big one.
Yeah. So as a whole, we've given you like 5 different unwise reasons to date. And there's more unwise ones, and you probably can think of some, but don't date like you're married. Don't date to feel complete. Don't date to fit in. Don't date out of boredom or loneliness. By the way, you can be unlonely. You can be not lonely and not date, right? You can
also be lonely while dating.
Well, that's true.
Okay.
That's true. That's usually towards the end of the relationship, though. Sure. But by the way, Harry Styles has a song about that called Ghosts. Do you know that 2 Ghosts? Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Reagan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Reagan? Yeah. Yeah. See, I pay attention. I know. Oh no, he knows my name. But yeah. Yeah. every relationship starts off sweet creature, and then it all devolves to ghosts. So it's Harry Styles.
Yes.
It's crazy, right? You see the gray in my beard, and I know these things. Anyway, so those are the unwise reasons to date. Now here's some wise reasons to date. Okay, first off, go.
Okay, first off, let me just say something that might be shocking. I don't want to hurt anybody, but when you get married, I mean, when you're dating and you're in school, there's two things that can happen. There's only two things. You can either break up or get married.
Oh, yeah,
That's right. There's just break up and get married.
Yeah, two options.
Yeah, there's really two options.
I mean, there is a time span
Right. It can
in between,
be labored on,
like
on.
start dating, and it's
Right.
not like
Right.
there's like you got 7 days to make
Right.
up your mind,
Right.
or it's like
So-
The Bachelor where it's like 8 weeks and then propose or you're
Right.
going home.
No. So what you're looking at is you're looking at you're dating, you're either preparing yourself for your next breakup or for marriage. So I think a good option when we're talking about being believers and caring about how we're treating others, and even what we're doing with our own minds and our own time, and if we're being selfish and being just dating because we're bored or lonely, we want to consider the idea that really the purpose of dating is to find out if that's who you want to marry, not if that's who you want to break up with. I mean, it's really, is this who you want to marry? So with that in mind, it does kind of change the way you look at why you're dating and who you're going to date, who you will waste that precious time of really deciding who's that like the ultimate person you'll be with. Won't be wasted on just the boredom person or the,
Yeah, or the filling the emptiness, the completeness in my life. So why number one is date with marriage in mind, not like I've got to find a husband, I've got to find a wife, and so I'm going to start right now. If a teacher assigns a term paper on the first week of class, I'm going to start writing it that when I go home. If you're one of those people, no, you're not dating to, okay, I'm gonna meet Billy or I'm gonna meet Susie this year, so we really know each other when we finally get married. It's date with marriage in mind. And so otherwise, if you're dating with other purposes, then you may stray into unwise territory, like dating out of boredom to fit in, etc. So date with marriage in mind. Doesn't mean you gotta be the scary prospective girlfriend or boyfriend that, when you first meet somebody and you're having Starbucks or it's Frosty Friday and you're like, oh, so hey, are you new? How many kids do you want? That's not what we're talking about. But like when you start to get to know someone, ask them questions about themselves to see if like you fit, instead of dating to fit in. And this is the second wise principle behind dating in this talk, at least, is instead of dating to fit in, date if you fit. So before you date, you ask questions, you get to know the person. Like our daughter, if we could squeeze her in here, we would, but we don't like her. So we don't like most teenage people, but our daughter is in high school and she has this great list of, and if Hayley wasn't feeling well, she's going to sit in. So maybe another time, but she has this great list of questions for anybody that wants to date someone. And one of her great questions is, how do you mourn? How do you mourn? Do you know what that means to mourn? Right? But like, how do you process loss when you lose a cat, a goldfish, a grandparent, all equal, right? No, that's not true. There's different levels of loss. But how do you mourn? Do you bury it all inside? Are you a weepy mess for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you never really kind of get over it? It's always kind of a fresh wound. Do experience it really painfully for a week or so, and then it's like, okay, I'm good, let's move on? But imagine like having a relationship with someone that like stuffs it all inside, and you're just like the raw mess of nerves and emotions for months. That's not gonna go well when life happens, right? And so figuring out if you fit together, again, like the Bible talks about being unequally yoked. If you just base your dating, your purpose of dating on just attraction or fitting in or being complete, or well, I just want someone that makes me laugh. If you just do that and you don't figure out if you fit, then when times get tough, or when all of the surfacey stuff becomes typical, then you're going to find out, man, I've invested all this time with someone that I don't fit with.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important that you ask a lot of questions. I mean, that's something fun to do anyway when you're hanging out with someone, ask a lot of questions. But I think it's important just to reiterate what you said about not being unequally yoked. For those of you that might not have heard that, that just means that you shouldn't marry someone that's of a different faith than you, that doesn't hold the same beliefs that you have, because those kind of situations, if you start dating someone that's completely, they just have nothing in common with your faith, life gets really difficult, not to mention just spiritually the mistake that is, but it can be really hard in furthering in your life to get along with someone that you have just so much that you disagree with. But there's also some questions you can ask each other, like we did this just recently. You guys might have done this, where you ask, what are 10 things that you do not like but that most of the world likes?
Yeah, that's been going on social media, right? It's like, what are some things that everybody likes that you don't like? Plus, there was this online dating service that there's all sorts of dating, Match.com, ChristianMingle.com, all these Tinder, Plenty of Fish, all these dating apps, and they all base compatibility on what you like. But there is one site that totally flipped it on its head, and it basically matched people based on what you dislike the most. and so finding out, like, because especially like, I think you're cute. Yeah, I think you're cute. And so what do you like to do?
I like to go to the movies.
Oh, me too. When you like someone, when you're attracted to someone, you ask them what they like, and then you really try and find a reason to
say you like it.
To say you like it.
Better be honest.
But it doesn't necessarily show your fit. So date with marriage in mind, date if you fit, and then instead of dating to feel complete, here's the thing. Instead of dating to feel complete or dating out of boredom, be complete by filling your life with things that should make you complete. So family, friends, faith, food. No, that'll make you extra complete or double extra complete, depending on the size range. Yeah, so God provides all of us with some semblance of family. Now, sometimes it's really messed up, and then we get surrogate family, we get bonus family, we get instead of a biological father or mother to love us the way that God intends, we get adoptive
or
spiritual parents, because we might grow up in a family with really decent parents, but that don't share our faith. And so we need spiritual parents, disciplers, sometimes you might hear. And so it's through those vehicles that we become. If you're a butterfly, are you born a butterfly? Yeah, class. No, you're born a caterpillar, a pupa, and then you have to do the cocoon thing, and then you have to struggle and get out, and then you become what you're meant to be. And when you're looking for completeness in someone else when really you need to go through the struggle of kind of figuring out who you are in Christ, who you were without God, and who you are with God, and how he makes you more into the likeness of his son, Jesus. Then that fills your time with family and friends. And by the way, friends of both sexes, male and female. And it's in getting to know those friends that you start to understand fit. And you know, imagine if your Fitbit could just kind of pair up with somebody else's and it would just buzz and reject, like, oh no, not a good fit. That would be a great piece of technology, right? But humans are a little bit more complicated than ones and zeros, binary programming language. So be complete and fill your life with your family, either biological, adoptive, or spiritual families, your friends. And by the way, having friends, you can make the same unwise choices in choosing your friends as you can choosing a love interest or a crush. So with friends, be wise with your friends, and then fill your life with growing in faith. And so date with marriage in mind, date if you fit, be complete, and grow in your own completeness, because that's also going to make you more attractive to quality future partners, is that you're complete, that you're not needy, that you're not insecure, that you're not scattered and don't know you're one way around one people and another way around other people. And ultimately fill your life in this time, in this season, with family and friends, but working out your faith in Christ.
There's a story that I think helps illustrate this idea of filling your life with Christ. And that is, a lot of us, if you can imagine your emotions that you deal with every day, your fear, your worry, your love, your hate, your envy, whatever it might be, as being in a bucket, and you carry around that bucket all day. And sometimes people come along and they're really friendly, or they're in need, and they say, I really need you to help me. I need your empathy. And so you get in the bucket and you give them a little bit of love and empathy, and you start dipping in the bucket and giving them what they need. But then your bucket, you feel like, my bucket's empty. I've been taking care of everybody. And so you find someone, a boyfriend or girlfriend or even friend, that you say, I need you to fill this bucket. Start giving me some love. Start giving me what I need. And you're begging for that. And they might fill the bucket, but they might also come and kick it over. They might just knock it out of your hand. And then you look on the ground and you say, my bucket's empty. But what we have to understand as believers is our buckets are never empty. When your life is filled with Christ, your bucket is full. And he's the one that fills that bucket. Nobody else comes and fills that bucket. In fact, nobody can come and kick that bucket ultimately. They can maybe tip it over, but when you pull it back up, it's still overflowing. It's still abundant. It is still full with the love and the joy and the peace of Christ. And so if you think that, if you have that in mind when you go into all your relationships, that you will have an unending bucket, you won't be falling into some of these unwise decisions.
Yeah. And it goes back to a verse in the Bible that you've probably heard, that we love as human beings. We love because God first loved us. And so we're not the source of love. We're just kind of the conduit. God is the fire hydrant. We're the hose. And so, there's this endless supply. God never runs out of love, but our buckets, in this analogy, can become empty. Our hoses can become empty if we're not attached to what? The fire hydrant, the source of the water, the source of love. So again, if you are, I want to close with this. When we talk to groups of students, adults, we never assume that everybody is a follower of Jesus, that everybody wants to live according to his word, or we never assume that. And so that's why we try and bring wisdom that works regardless of your faith and regardless of where you're at in your faith, where no, I accepted Jesus and I'm kind of figuring that out. But right now I'm busy learning this TikTok dance. I don't know. And so, but here's the thing, the ultimate, all this wisdom is good for relationships, but the ultimate thing that I can tell you that is great for relationships in looking at a guy or a girl to marry is ask yourself this question: does this person amplify my walk with Christ? Do you know what amplify means? It's like, it's like plugging a guitar into an amp, a speaker. It makes it louder, makes it carry more. Does this person amplify my faith, amplify my walk with Christ? And likewise, do I do the same for her? Do you do the same for me? Because for the believer, that's really the goal. Because in life, in our society, most people would say, what's a reason for getting married or being in a committed relationship? Well, because I want to become the best me I can be, and they can help me become the best me I can be. And that's a good reason. But a great biblical reason is because I'm going to be in this relationship. I'm going to stay in this relationship. I'm going to work on this relationship. Even when things are hard, we're going to stay together because it brings glory to God, and because it doesn't make me the best me I can be, but because it makes me more like Jesus, who loved the church even when the church turned their backs on him. We just celebrated Holy Week and Good Friday and Easter, and we know all about that amazing love that Jesus had for us, for the church, for the bride of Christ, that God so loved the world that he gave his son, his only son, that whoever should believe in him would have eternal life, everlasting life, never be separated from God. And so if marriage is kind of a picture of Christ's love for the church, that's sacrificial love, that's selfless love. And so with that, Kevin, we're ready for questions, comments, or quarantine trivia, whatever you want to open it up to.
All right. So, folks, you can type in the chat, or let me switch to where I can see half of your faces. And so you can type a question privately to me, or you can type a question for everybody, or raise your hand and you can be unmuted and ask your question out loud.
What's up, Adrian?
Where's Adrian at?
Hey, Sarah. I'm just saying hi to the people.
Oh, I thought you were seeing somebody's hands. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's an anonymous question. I mean, it's just out of left field. The question is: are dads ever wrong when they give their opinion about dating?
Are dads ever wrong?
Ever? No.
Yes.
Are they ever wrong? Are they ever wrong? Oh.
Yeah, they are. But they're always dads.
Yeah.
Yeah, dads can be wrong about dating, just like moms can be wrong about dating. Just like the only person / being that is never wrong is God.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, Christian authors can be wrong. Student pastors can be wrong.
Right.
Dads can be wrong.
Right.
But ultimately, the truth of the matter is that if he's your dad, even if he's wrong, unless he's asking you to sin, you kind of have to go with it, right? Because that ultimately, that's the responsibility of all of us as children, is to obey our parents. I
Well,
know
and
it's a hard word. But
And it goes back to that. It goes back to that topic that we started off with about wisdom, how there's kind of three kinds of wisdom. The wisdom that you're just kind of, some people, not everybody, some people are just kind of born with
Mm-hmm.
in certain areas. And then the kind of wisdom that's imparted to you, that's taught to you, that's gifted to you by God through other people that God's put in your life. And that's typically supposed to be parents and pastors and teachers. And then there's that messy, what do we call it? Painful wisdom.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That painful wisdom of where we go, I wish I would have listened. I wish I would have paid attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so are dads ever wrong? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do dads and moms and parents and student pastors, do they sometimes have wisdom that is true and helpful that just doesn't sound like it's going to help you flourish, that it's going to make you happy, that's going to end your loneliness, that's going to help you fit in? Yeah. A lot of times that's what the wisdom sounds like. And so, but yeah, dads can be wrong. Not my daughter's dad, but
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong all the time.
So dads are right about 95% of the time, just to summarize that. So let me just keep typing in questions, and I'll read them off if they're private or otherwise. Can you give some wisdom on an exit strategy, or wisdom if somebody's in a relationship that now seems unwise?
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard, right? Because the exit strategy, I mean, yeah, I can say yeah, just send a text and call it good.
don't do that.
That's bad dad advice, by the way. Um, but you wouldn't do that. Well, you shouldn't do that. But the reason that you don't do that is because you care about the person. You got into the relationship for a reason. You stayed in it for a bit, for good reasons, well-intentioned reasons, let's say. And so you just don't. And so it's not easy to do, especially if like there's two situations, right? As far as exit strategy, there's thinking it's going to be really messy. Me getting out of this, it's going to be a mess. And then there's the surprise situation, and it's going to be messy because why? The other person doesn't want it to end, right? That's why it's messy. And then there's the surprise situation where you're like, oh, how do I get out of this? And then you start to try and get out of it, and they're like, oh yeah, cool. And you're like, wait, what?
And then you want them back.
Then you want them back. That's crazy. So exit strategy, it depends.
But I think that in all exits, if you understand the fruit of the spirit, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, if you can at the very least make sure that everything you say is with that underneath it, that's the undercurrent, that you're being kind and joyful and patient, even though you know it's going to be hard on them, that's the first step, I think, into recognizing that whatever you do, it has to be in love. It can't be blaming them or telling them how horrible they are, but with the intent of making their lives, making them more interested in pursuing Christ.
Yeah. And okay, so it sounded like I was gonna say, oh, it just kind of depends and leave you hanging, but that's not true. Here's my best advice for how to break things off for whatever reason, but especially if it's a hard situation. The best way to break things off is to write it down for yourself. Write it down. Write down the person's name and say, Bobby, because that could be with a Y or an I. It could be a guy or a girl, right? So Bobby, I don't want to date anymore. I'm breaking up. I'm so sorry. I care about you, but this has to end. because of, and then fill in the blank, because of fill in the blank, and keep the blank short. Don't roll out a list because you make funny noises when you chew, and I hate your laugh, and you have BO, and your mother drives me crazy. No, but you just say because, and make it about you. That right now, I just don't want to date. And please make that the reason. don't say, well, I'm breaking up with you because I want to date this other person. Because you kind of need to like take a break in between, because otherwise you're just hopping, you're filling a void, so keep it short, and then like have a clock on it, and have a parent call you down for dinner, or have a parent come pick you up, or whatever the scenario is. Have an exit strategy for your exit strategy, but keep it short, be kind, like Hayley's talking about. And if the person's fighting, begging, if they lash out at you, which never makes sense. If you want the person to stay with you and then you lash out as your strategy for trying to keep them, it's counterintuitive. But keep it short.
I want to think about one. I like the idea of an exit strategy for the exit strategy, because there are people who will manipulate you, and
Yes.
and I've seen people who've tried to get out of relationships, and whether low self-esteem or whatever, the other person knows the right buttons to push to convince them that they're incomplete without them, and then and so definitely get back up. To get out, and definitely there's more words are not going to make it go any easier, and so that's probably really good practical wisdom there. I think it's kind of related to that, but somebody's asked, one thing is about once you know you want to exit, but what are the signs that you need to be looking for an exit? Like
when it goes bad.
Yeah,
How to know when it goes bad?
When is it becoming unhealthy, ungodly? Yeah. What are some ways you can be aware of that? And I think when you understand that it's not marriage, I think that's people get frustrated. It's so people make it more complicated. It's not a marriage. You're not obligated to stay together. And sometimes when you break up, you might get back together later on. It's just not now. Not now. It's not the right time. And when you're not married, you can stop. But what are some maybe yellow flags or things that may be indicators that it's maybe time to assess whether to stay in a relationship?
When you feel bad, you know what I'm saying? When you feel, I mean, if you feel worse when you're with someone, when you feel worse after you're spend time with someone, that's not good. If all of the friends that you are good friends to you have questions, or you can't spend time with them, or family, like wise people in your family are not crazy about the situation, those are some good yellow and red flags.
I think it's also important if they're asking you or convincing you or making you do things that are wrong, that you wouldn't want God to watch you doing, you wouldn't want your grandma to watch you doing. If it's anything that's making you go against what you believe and what you know to be true, then that's a sign. That's, I think, the biggest sign that the relationship's not good and it's not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the age old saying. If Well, it's age old now. I can't remember it. Maybe that's because I'm old. Well, how about this? Let me phrase it this way. I think I know what you were alluding to and referring to just a second ago, but I'm even talking things like, why are you wanting to spend so much time with your friends? Why are you, what? Yeah, hey, will you lie for me? Hey, will you do my paper for me? All of these things that that can just kind of build up. And going back to my original statement, if it makes you feel bad, that's probably a bad sign.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just saying that relationships should always make you feel good, but you know what I'm saying, when it, like, where you just, where you feel, again, less of a person, especially a person that, if you're trying to live to follow Jesus, where you feel like you're less of a Jesus follower when you're with them,
Mm-hmm.
and you're more of a Jesus follower without them. That's a pretty good sign.
And it's important to remember, and it's already been said, that you're not married to the person. So it's not a sin for you to break up with them. So that sense of guilt, it's bad guilt. When you think, oh no, I can't do this, I'm not meant to break up with them. That's not a sin.
There's something I talk about a lot at our church about just life and faith, but it goes really good with relationships too. And that is living life with open hands of faith. And so maybe you've heard that saying, if you love something, set it free. And if it comes back to you, that's great. I don't think that's the part of it. That's great. But if it doesn't come back, it never was yours in the first place. Well, it's similar to that, but in a theological sense, when we hold on to something that's really valuable to us, and we grip it really tightly, and we just love it so much, please don't take this, please don't take this. And you might be talking to your parents, you might be talking to your teacher, you might be talking to God, please don't take this. The tighter we grip something, the more we fashion it into what the Bible would call an idol, something that we worship that's not God. But when we hold good things with open hands of faith, knowing that God gave us this good thing, then if it gets taken from us, or if somebody decides to jump out of our hands, or for whatever reason we lose that thing, our hands are still open. Even though that thing isn't in our hands anymore, our hands are still open to wait for what God gives us next. And that's a good way to look at relationships. Think about it that way. If you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend now or in the future, and you hold them with open hands of faith, guess what? Do you think you're going to be, is this less jealous, or is this more jealous, right? Is this more secure? Is this less secure? And so your relationship becomes healthier in that sense. But when it comes to knowing if something's going bad, if you're doing this to the other person, it's going bad. But here's the other thing. If you're in somebody else's grip and they're gripping tight like that, that's bad too. But if you feel like, they love you, they appreciate you, but you have freedom, not like to date around, or that's not what I'm saying, that kind of freedom, but you have freedom to hang out with your friends. You have freedom to say, no, I really want to spend time with my family tonight. You have freedom to do that. That's a pretty darn good relationship. But this is not.
Okay, I'm going to answer a question that it keeps popping up. How did you guys meet? I'm just going to do it really fast. Online dating site.
Yeah, back when it was creepy. Back with dial-up modems. Yeah. No, but we met, and we went through a lot of this stuff as far as is this person going to amplify my faith, my walk with Christ? How am I complete without? We had to do a lot of living and completing before we met each other. So, yeah. Anything else you want us to tackle?
I think
how to say no to someone that's interested in you.
No.
But you know that you don't want to date. How should you do that without hurting the other person? Oh, yeah. How do you shoot somebody down?
Yeah, that's hard.
Just pretend like you didn't hear them. No, that's not that's not
No.
no, that's not good. Um so uh so role play.
What? I'm gonna ask you to. Okay. Hey, good looking. Would you like to go out
Oh, you mean like for coffee?
or dinner?
Well,
Skate rink.
the skate rink, the hoedown. Yeah. So here's the hard part. If somebody asks you out on a date, or hey, do you want to do this or that, and you know that they're into you and you're not into them, just go, oh well, if you want to get a group of people together, I I'd be down for that, but I'm just not I'm just not interested in dating you. No, leave the you off. Just say I'm just not interested in I'm just not interested in dating right now.
And it's important to know in your mind that that's the best thing you could say to them, because to
Yeah.
give them any hope when there isn't any hope is really not very kind. And
Yeah.
nobody would like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole, and there are people that will, I mean, you've probably encountered it. You might have even fallen into this trap where you figure, well, the person says, well, if I can just stay around them, be around them enough, they'll see what's right in front of them this whole time. It was you the whole time. Oh, and that's makes for good chick flicks, but and romance novels, but it's not real life. And typically what it just does, it just strings somebody along. Have you ever watched like the Grammys or the Oscars, like an award show? Do you know how when the camera pans to the audience, the seats are always full? Well, I don't know if you knew this or not, but they actually have people, the award shows hire people called seat fillers. And so when an actress or an artist needs to like get up and go to the bathroom or get something to drink or something like that, as soon as they get out of their seat, if they sit up front where the cameras turn, a seat filler, someone that's hired just to sit in their seat, that's all dressed to the nines, they'll walk down and they'll sit in their seat until they come back. And so they're just there keeping the seat filled for the cameras for appearance's sake until the real star comes back and sits down. Number one, you don't want to be a seat filler. Like if you're the person that's trying to hang around, and when the other person, when you've made your intentions known and the other person's like, yeah, I'm not interested in dating, or we're just going to be friends. Oh yeah, friends is fine. You don't want to be a seat filler. But secondly, if you're the star in this relationship and the person's trying to hang around, and you don't want seat fillers in your life. You should have that seat empty, because your Brad Pitt, your Angelina Jolie might be coming along, and if they see somebody sitting in that seat, they're like, and you missed out, and so the kindest thing is just to say, oh, that's really sweet, but yeah, I'm not interested in dating. And if they say, you mean anyone or ever? It's like
pushing it then.
It's like, yeah, unless you're the dating police that need to record this for posterity, for right now and for what you're asking, I'm just not dating right now. But if you're open to a group, a group get together where that person's involved, you can suggest that. And again, that might help you discover at first blush, you might be like, yeah, they're not a fit. It's not a good fit. But when you're in groups, when you can see how people interact with other people, when you see how someone treats other people that can't do anything for them, like how they treat janitors and treat wait staff, servers at restaurants, how they treat kind of the odd girl out, or the kind of awkward friend that you're friends with that you like. When you see them, how they treat other people, you're not going to see that on a one-on-one date, but you're going to see it in group situations. So that's always an option too.
Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Do you have any resources you might point our students to who might want to read up and get some preemptive wisdom?
Yeah. Yeah. We wrote a book called Before You Date, 7 Things to Know Before Your Next Date. It can be kind of hard to find because there's no Christian bookstores out there anymore. But I think like the ebook, like for Kindle and iBooks on Apple devices, I think the ebook is still out there and available, but it's actually the title Before You Date. So you can look it up that way, but also it's like on the cover of the book, Before You Date is on a license plate of a red scooter, and it's like the letter B, the number 4, the letter U, and then D8, Before You Date. So and that book actually won like the Christian Book of the Year for teens the year it came out, so it's a pretty good one. There's another book that my name isn't on it, but it's good for guys, middle school and high school guys, and it's called Choosing Greatness, and it was written by Dr. Gary Chapman, who wrote the 5 Love Languages book. That is a big relationship book, but I actually wrote a chunk of that book, but my name's in the fine print in the front. So, but that's a great book for guys.
True Purity.
And then there's another book called True Purity. More than just what's the subtitle? True Purity. Saying no to more than just you know what is the subtitle. And so it's about purity in all of life, as far as purity in your intentions of why you choose your friends and how you choose your friends. So it's a good book on just personal wisdom and holiness and becoming stronger in your faith.
I also think that the 2 different books, God Girl and God Guy, have
Oh, yeah.
significant chapters on relationships.
Yeah. God Girl and God Guy. Yeah.
Just growing as a Christian, reading anything on how to follow Christ is going to spill over into wisdom.
Yeah.
Becoming more complete.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for your time. I know you guys are down in Nashville, and that's where my wife is from, and I know you guys are dealing with all kinds of unique ministry challenges in this shutdown time, and this is one of our ways of coping, and folks like you all have made that such a have made it an easier time because you've made yourself available so our students can borrow from your wisdom and get a break from whatever they normally hear from me. But so thankful for you all, and pray God's blessings for your ministries, and hopefully we can get you all here face to face someday whenever we're allowed to do that legally.
Yeah, or you guys can come down here.
That'd be great.
Field trip.
Big bus.
All right. Well, hey everybody, you can unmute yourself and say goodbye or thank you or whatever. They're waving. Let's see.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us. It was fun.
This was so fun. So fun. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
And I think you need to get a little more comfortable.
Thanks.
All right.
Oh, I see Elijah's face. All I saw was the
There
car.
are people there.
Elijah likes cars. Hey, thank you all very much. I really.
Fairlane? A red Ford.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I hear
Bye.
Bye bye. God bless.